There are many, many things I cannot explain. You know, most things happen outside of test conditions. You may have noticed. There are things I could have experienced or witnessed that I cannot fully explain, but I can give answers to, as valid as those answers given by people with mystical, well, answers, explanations. They jump to conclusions, usually. They've got a foundation of belief, and rather than filling in the gaps with testing, seeing what works, so, no, we can skip that. We've already got the conclusion in the foundation. We can just jump from point A to point Z, I suppose, or point Z, and simply say that a thing is so. Well, if a person then can say, well, I'm not entirely sure with some things, we can go over here, we can find other things that work in those examples and are demonstrable within those particular examples of phenomena which may have taken place, and we can say it is plausible that something similar may have taken place in regard to said mystical experience, meeting aliens, ghosts, or I don't know, any number of things that go bump in the night, or go bump in your head, or whatever the case may be. We can say there are things which are demonstrable possibilities, as opposed to a matter of belief, a matter of faith, things that cannot be tested. And that's a very real problem with supernatural, paranormal claims. The tests are far from scientific, far from genuine, and as a result we're left with more mysteries, more questions than answers. Whereas with the more skeptical view, at least you've got some answers already out there, things which can be confirmed, but of those things which are outside of test conditions, you weren't there, you can't travel back in time to an event. You have to say, well, there are better explanations, but we can't know for sure. So the skeptical explanation is usually the better explanation. However, because we can't test it, it leaves things in a state of mystery, which for some people means they can simply say, you don't know. You can't be sure. And therefore, it must prove that it is in fact ghosts, or, I don't know, the interdimensional reptilians eating babies, or whatever the case may be. You had an hallucination. You weren't taken out of your room and abused by a shape-shifting cult of changelings. You were, in fact, hallucinating. It's like, no, you can't prove it absolutely because it's outside of test conditions. It's like, well, that's a bit of desperation right there. If a series of ideas are not as demonstrable as a series of, real, plausible explanations, then which conclusion should you hold closer to you? I'm not saying have it as an absolute, but at least it's a plausible explanation compared to one which is based on perhaps highly subjective experiences. That's a very real problem, the subjectivity of many of these claims out there, many of these mystical, magical, supernatural, paranormal claims, that many of them fall outside of the realm of the norm, but also people have been known to have paranormal experiences which they've witnessed themselves, but it's entirely inside their head. They've been hallucinating, and this is a thing under test conditions, hallucinating, being abducted, and they're talking to or being escorted by a skeptic or by someone who is a paranormal investigator, and they're just having a normal experience in a room, but the person there who's tripping balls in a psychotic state or semi-psychotic state, depending on the hallucinations and the state of mind involved, they are basically experiencing the full whiz-bang wallop of an alien abduction. So in that case you can say, well, people can and indeed do experience things in the mind which seem to be far more real than perhaps we'd give them credit, and they might well, if there's no other witnesses there to say, oh no, you're just sitting next to me, you were in your seat the whole time, or you're in your bed, or you're sitting back on the psychiatrist's chair in a hypnotic state, whatever the case may be. I'm just spitballing ideas, but we can say people have these experiences where it seems to be real, where in fact it's not actually in any real way real beyond that of the mind. So it makes other areas where people claim to have had real experiences, no witnesses, not a group thing, throws it all into doubt. It's only those things where you're with many witnesses, and it seems to be that they have all seen the same thing. There is no discrepancy, no sharing of notes. It seems to come together. There are unanswered questions and things we cannot easily answer, cannot easily find answers to. That's where, at least, there are some areas of intrigue